But to I guess introduce ourselves, my name's Matt. I'm the Student Recruitment Manager here at the College of Legal Practice. I oversee supporting the journey of all of our prospective students to becoming an enrolled student at the college. What we aim to do today is to spell more information about how to pass the SQE and what the SQE is. But before we crack straight into that, we have a couple of speakers today. We have Layla, who I'm going to let Layla introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Layla. So I'm the Student Recruitment Officer with the College of Legal Practice. So I work very closely with Matt, supporting students and helping them decide which courses are right for them. So feel free to get in touch with me here after this or on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you, Layla. And then we have Ben as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben. I'm a paralegal at Marks and Spencer's, but I'm also a student here at the College of Legal Practice on the part-time LLM.
Brill, thank you. And then in the nick of time, Kathryn has just joined us, and hopefully her microphone's working. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Kathryn.
I hope so too. Hello everyone, I'm Kathryn Newton and I'm one of the programme leaders of which the SQE modules are a part.
Amazing, thank you, Kathryn. So to crack straight through, what we're going to try and cover today is an overview of the college. So what we always wish to do is give you a nice understanding of who we are, what we do, what our goals, aims and ethos is as an education provider. Secondly, Kathryn's going to give you a really great overview of the route to qualification to becoming a solicitor through the SQE route. And then we're going to touch on the exams and what the exams look like, so you can take an understanding of how it's slightly different to previous routes to qualification. We're going to give you an overview of our courses and how we try to get you best prepared to sit the SQE exams. The support that you need, there's lots of support to take on lots of information, and we have lots of support in place. So we'll discuss how we support our students specifically. As Ben has mentioned, he's on the LLM studying with us. So we're going to hear from Ben and his journey of starting the LLM, sitting SQE1 and the journey all the way through to sitting the exam. We'll cover some feedback so you can understand what our students have said about studying with us here at the college, and then how to apply to our courses, and then we'll have time for some questions at the end. So to give you an overview of who we are and what we are as a college, we're a fully online and remote postgraduate accredited law school based here in the UK, but we have students from all around the world. There's a number of things that we do, which is driven by the fact that we sit in a not-for-profit group headed by the College of Law based in Australia. So everything we do is not-for-profit, and we try to keep our costs as low as possible for our students, but also make the route of qualification to becoming a solicitor in the UK or in England and Wales as accessible as possible. And you can see that is our first point of what we strive for and what we aim to achieve as an institution. We wish the route to be as affordable as possible. Becoming a lawyer or a solicitor is not the easiest or the cheapest, but we aim to break differently where we can from other competitors. By doing this, we hope to see an increase in a wider variety of people accessing the profession. So we want to see greater social mobility through becoming a solicitor, and the number of people from different backgrounds being able to become a solicitor. That's what we want to support here in England and Wales. We have very, very particular learning plans. Nobody has the same study ethos who is a student with us, and we aim to use that and do that to make sure everybody has the opportunity to reach their full potential through the route of becoming a solicitor. Everything we do is aimed at giving you as much personal support and contact time as possible. So we aim to make sure that all of our students feel supported whilst they're studying with us. And lastly, we have a collegiate approach, which means you have regular contact time in town hall surgeries, one-to-ones, group forum discussions. Depending on what course you do, there's a real variety of ways you can come into contact with fellow students on the course. So that gives you a very nice and quick brief overview of who we are. But to get straight into it, I'm going to pass over to Kathryn, and Kathryn's going to start to talk about the route of qualification in the SQE.
Thank you for that, Matt. Yeah, so what you're looking at here is a diagrammatic from the SRA, which shows the four parts rather, to the solicitor route to qualification. What we're talking about here is the SQE route, which replaced the LPC route. So this is the route to qualification that has been enforced since September of last year. It's running alongside the LPC route at the moment, but if you're interested in the LPC route, you'll have to do that at a different institution, because we are fully focused on the SQE route to qualification. So you'll need to have four parts to qualifying as a solicitor. You'll need a degree, an undergraduate degree. It doesn't have to be in law, but it must be an undergraduate degree from England and Wales. You'll need to pass the SQE examinations. They're in two parts, SQE1 and SQE2. You'll need to obtain qualifying work experience, which is a period of work experience over 2 years in the provision of legal services. And you'll need to be of suitable character in order to be admitted as a solicitor. So the important message around this new route to qualification is that the jigsaw can be completed in the order in which you like, save that you must have a degree before you start the SQE exams, and you must pass SQE1 before you attempt SQE2. And you've got 6 years from attempting SQE1 at the first attempt to completing and passing SQE2. So that's a jigsaw of how the elements that you will need in order to qualify. And we'll move on from that, and we'll take a closer look at what the SQE1 and SQE2 are about. So you'll probably know that the SQE1 and SQE2 are National Professional Gateway exams, and that means that they are standardised exams run by the regulator, the SRA, and they have commissioned an organisation called Kaplan to run the exams for them. So if you're thinking of undertaking a preparatory course at an institution, you'll be sitting the SQE exams through Kaplan and they're linked to the SRA. The SQE1 assessment then tests functioning legal knowledge, and the aim of this is so that the SRA want to be satisfied that anyone who is seeking to qualify as a solicitor has enough legal knowledge to practice as a solicitor, and therefore the SQE tests your functioning legal knowledge in 13 practice areas and tests you at the level of competency of a day one solicitor. And the 13 practice areas are split into 2 papers, where it's 6 in each paper, and 1 practice area running across both papers, because that's ethics and conduct of being a solicitor. And when you do the exam, you'll be doing multiple choice exam. None of the elements are discretionary, everything is compulsory. They're all closed book exams, and you sit at a centre run by Kaplan for the SRA in one of the centres in England and Wales, or indeed there are international centres as well. And the SRA offer SQE1 assessments in January and July of each year, and they charge you a fee of just over £1,600 for attempting that assessment. Ben will talk to you in a little bit about his experience of that, because he did that he did the assessment in July of this year. We then have the SQE2 assessment. So assuming that you're successful at SQE1, you're then eligible to attempt SQE2. And what SQE2 does is build on your functioning legal knowledge to then begin to focus on the skills of practicing as a solicitor. And the skills are 6 in 6 parts. They are legal drafting, they are advocacy, they are interviewing, case and matter analysis, and legal research. And those skills are tested in the context of 5 practice areas. And the practice areas, so it sounds like between SQE1 and SQE2 you're narrowing down. What actually the SRA has done is taken the practice areas that that use all of the 13 practice areas that are in SQE1 in order to test your legal skills. So it's not that you're ditching some of your legal knowledge, you're actually just honing in on the areas where the SRA are looking at, but it means that you need a very, very secure legal knowledge from SQE1 to take that forward into SQE2. The SQE2 assessment is one exam split into 16 stations, 12 of which are written and 4 of which are oral. So you can see that it's an intense exam. The SRA run these SQE2 assessments in various locations. You can do them internationally for the written stations, but the oral stations must be done in England and Wales, currently Cardiff, Manchester or London. And we have SQE2 assessment dates coming up in 2023 in April. And then there will also be assessment points in July and October of 2023. But the important point is to remember you must pass SQE1 before you have any eligibility to enter for SQE2. The exam fees for SQE2 are just short of £2,500. And those exam fees are paid directly to Kaplan for the SRA. They're a fee additional to any preparatory course fees that you pay to a provider to study for those exams. There's a blue arrow across the bottom of this slide. That's qualifying work experience. And what that demonstrates is that you can do your qualifying work experience at any point after, or indeed during, you can start it during your undergraduate degree. There's no prescribed order in which you pursue the route to qualification. You can do qualifying work experience while you're studying and doing your SQE exams, or after, or indeed before. It's very much a matter for you. And I'm sure Matt will mention that we are running separate meetings like this where we will tell you more about qualifying work experience. So if we move away from the SQE exams, those exams run by Kaplan, we'll now tell you a little bit about how we help you prepare if you come to the College of Legal Practice to get ready for one of those exams. So I'll take these in chronological order, and on the left-hand side, we've got the SQE1 prep course, and we call that the Solicitor's Legal Knowledge module. So we run that over various durations. You can do it 13 weeks, 20 weeks, or 40 weeks. The content for all of them is exactly the same. It's just that you're stretching or condensing depending on the time you have available for your study. We charge you a fee of £1,800 for that, and we will be fully preparing you for the SQE1. So all the materials that you get from us for this module will cover the content of the SQE1 syllabus, and lots and lots of opportunities for you to practice ready for that. So we give you manuals, we give you activities to practice your knowledge from those manuals. We give you MCQs, lots and lots of MCQs, because your end game is to actually sit an MCQ exam. Ben's nodding because he will tell you about the pain of doing so many MCQs in a moment. And we support you through that by enabling you to attend at our practice area surgeries, which are run by a subject expert, where you can ask questions about practice area content. We also support you through that by bringing you along to town hall meetings where we tell you a bit more about orientation through the course. And we also then support you by way of individual one-to-one supervision sessions where we're looking at your engagement and performance and progression through the module, so that we're in a position to advise you towards the end of the module as to your readiness for the SQE exams themselves. So lots and lots of support in respect of the SQE1 prep module. In the SQE2 prep module, which is called Solicitor's Legal Skills, again, the content is identical but stretched up to 40 weeks or condensed into a 10-week course or a 20-week course if you want to sort of flex it out a little bit more. Course fees for the SQE2 prep are £2,300, and what we seek to do in the SQE2 prep is to simulate your activities that you will do in your examination for the SQE2. So we will be giving you an opportunity to practice at doing your written assessments, and we'll give you feedback, written feedback. We'll be giving you the opportunity to practice oral style assessments in front of a supervisor, and we'll give you feedback. And again, you'll have the opportunity to have meetings with supervisors who will give you guidance as to how you've performed with reference to the criteria that maps onto the SQE2 exam itself. So lots and lots of emphasis on support for you so that you can feel confident as you go towards the SQE exams. We offer these courses as standalone courses, so you can come to us simply to do the preparatory courses, but we are a degree awarding higher education provider, and therefore we can also offer our courses as part of an LLM in legal practice. We don't do any undergraduate provision. We're all focused on exclusively on postgraduate legal education. So this slide now in front of you shows you that we offer a legal practice LLM, which is aimed at giving you the SQE1 and SQE2 prep courses. It's also aimed at giving you some elective modules in specific practice areas. We've got a range of them. The information is available on our website, but they focus from private client through to specialist areas such as banking and finance, so the more commercial and corporate elements as well. In addition to those elective modules, we have modules that support you developing as a solicitor, not in a practice area, but in terms of the skill of being a legal professional within the provision of legal services. So a legal business skills module, an O-shaped skills module, and a wellbeing and resilience module. So that those modules are recognised by the profession as being extremely important as containing the requisite skills in order to be a fully rounded legal service professional within either a legal firm or within an in-house setting, or indeed a government setting. In addition, if you choose the LLM program, you will also have to demonstrate that you have specialist knowledge, in-depth knowledge in a particular area. And that we call that the capstone module. So in another context, you might have heard of that as a dissertation module, but it's a capstone module for us because it's aimed at practice, an area of practice, and being able to develop your and demonstrate your skills in a particular area of legal practice within an LLM in legal practice. So pause for thought for you to think about whether or not you would want to join an organisation which can provide the LLM in legal practice and sit your SQE preparatory modules within that, or whether you simply want to dip in to the SQE preparatory modules themselves. Whichever route you choose, we'll be giving you lots and lots of support that I've already mentioned in brief, but I just want to turn to focus that in this slide. So we, as Matt has mentioned, we run our modules fully online. All of our content is designed for online delivery. So there's no repurposing of any materials that have been used in a classroom setting. They're all designed for online delivery. And if your first point of contact with the college is likely to be our student services team. They are the people who will take you through the admissions process, and they'll be the people who support you with anything outside of your academic study while you're with the college. We also have an IT and wellbeing support area, and again, you'll be able to make contact with them directly should you need to when you're studying with us. Once you're within one of our modules of study or programs of study, we drop down to the layer shown below here, and we offer support to the whole cohort by way of student discussion forums, by way of town hall meetings, and by way of surgeries. And all of those meetings are recorded so that they are presented in this way. We use it through Zoom rather than Hopin, but they're presented in this way where we are encouraging discussion, questions and answers, and you can then go back to those recordings to watch ones of particular interest to you in your own time. And we also then offer the one-to-one meetings, and in those one-to-one meetings, you're meeting with a dedicated supervisor who will talk to you and support you in relation to your progression through the learning on the modules and help you to move forward towards those SQE exams. And in those one-to-one meetings, we'll be discussing with you, as I've already mentioned, your SQE readiness, so that by the end of the module, you will have a very clear steer from us on whether or not you think you are likely to achieve success in the SQE exams. I'm going to hand you over to Ben at this point, who will be able to fill in the other side of this from the point of view of a student who has been studying with us for a while and continues to study with us. So over to you, Ben.
Thank you, Kathryn. Hi, everyone. So, as mentioned, my name is Ben and I'm a student here at the College of Legal Practice, and I'm on the part-time Master's course in legal practice, which encompasses both the preparation for both SQE1 and SQE2. And as Kathryn has rightly mentioned, I sat the SQE1 exams back in July, seems like a lifetime ago now, and I have done the SQE1 prep course as part of the Masters, and I've started my first transactional module, which is in dispute resolution. So I am going to discuss my experience of the course so far, which I started back in February. And if you have any questions at any point, please do pop them in the chat and I can answer them at the end. So a bit of background about why I started the Masters course. So I decided to do the part-time Masters program as I thought it'd very much work alongside my full-time role at Marks and Spencer as a paralegal in the employment law team. So I already have my 2 years qualifying legal experience. So I wanted a Masters SQE course to further my career as solicitor, but also broaden my knowledge of law and different areas of law that are covered as part of the CULP Masters course. And I've been very impressed with how the course has been delivered, the support and the materials on offer, which I will run through now. So firstly, I really like how the content is delivered. It's structured in a way which allows you to understand the material and then retain it. There's a simple pattern for each module and each subunit of the course, which is easy to understand. The town halls, as Kathryn's mentioned, are really useful to help you plan your week of study and go over important announcements such as SQE updates, date reminders to book your SQE exams, and also to discuss feedback submitted by other students, which I believe it definitely shows that the college is definitely listening to us and acting on our feedback. So you start off each subunit by watching an introductory video or podcast about the content you need to cover for the exam. And this is very useful because it allows you to quickly understand the main principles of the law before you go over to the more in-depth reading. And when you get to the reading required, which is in a lot more detail, it is laser focused on the content that you need to know for the exam. It is very understandable and gives you useful assessment tips for the SQE throughout, which are very, very helpful. You then start to consolidate and retain your understanding of the legal principles by doing a short interactive activity and practice multiple choice questions, which are structured in exactly the same way as the exam. And I've sat the SQE1 exam and I can truly say that the MCQs that are part of the course are very reflective of the SQE1 real life questions in the exam. So this helps you when you're doing these practice questions through the course. It really does help you put your knowledge that you've learned into practice. And I really like this way of learning is you understand the content quickly in a simple way, and then you put it into practice, which I believe is the best possible way to prepare you for the exam. So when I was in, I guess many people on this call are in the position of choosing SQE providers. It is difficult, and I was in exactly the same position a few short months ago. But when I was looking for different providers, the key thing for me was support, and the College of Legal Practice really from the get-go demonstrated a level of support that I didn't really witness with other providers. The student services team answered any queries I had quickly and really helped me navigate through the SQE process and what to expect on the course. And likewise, when you start the course, there's a great level of support. So you get assigned a personal tutor, which you have regular catch-ups with and discuss what you need to be successful with the SQE, the course, and as well as any pastoral support you require. You have town halls throughout the course, which help you orientate yourself for the week ahead, as mentioned, and surgeries to ask any questions that you may have. And the surgeries are also designed to go through the trickier course content, which I think is really important in such an intense course. The discussion boards, so there's discussion boards for each area of law on the course as part of the SQE1 module. And you can ask any questions that you have to the expert leading that particular module of law, and you can also discuss these questions and have a conversation about your questions in the surgeries. So there are several layers of support at the College of Legal Practice, which have made me feel very comfortable very early on and throughout, and supported at every stage. I've felt supported at every stage so far. So one of the main things I considered when I looked to start the SQE course was the flexibility of the course, especially as many of you are probably working full time. The College of Legal Practice allows you to fit your studies around your schedule. So most of the work can be completed in your evenings or your weekends, whichever really works best for you. But the college does continue to give you a structure through a calendar to help you keep on track, whilst having an element of flexibility, as long as you cover the content required within the week. So generally, although the main aim of me doing this prep course is to, pass the SQE and secure a master's qualification, I have actually really enjoyed the process and the content, albeit it being very intense, I will say that. I finished the SQE1 prep course. I've moved on to my first transactional module in dispute resolution, and it is really, really interesting. And it's a lot more practical as well, which is really refreshing. And finally, I just wanted to mention about how to, because for me, I study, I guess like many people, where I like to alternate the way I study. So sometimes looking at a screen all day, you want to mix it up and you want to move to hard copy materials just to mix it up and I guess alternate the way that you study. And that is definitely the way the College of Legal Practice it works. You can alternate the way that you study. You can highlight your materials, which are really, really good, but also have that one-on-one contact with staff members virtually, which is really helpful. And I sat the exams in July. I have to say I felt very prepared, and the materials were exceptionally thorough. You go through a process of answering thousands of multiple choice questions. College of Legal Practice really, really do help you prepare for the SQE1 exam. And as mentioned, the practice MCQ questions are reflective of what is in the real life exam. I wanted to mention that it is an intense exam, so choosing the right provider is very important to support you on your SQE1 journey. But overall, so far, I've been very happy with choosing the College of Legal Practice. So that's all I wanted to cover. But if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat and I'll get to them at the end. But thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Ben. Before we did move on, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions to kind of delve in a little bit more to what you've said, because we don't often have students join on here, so it's always great to have a student join us and really give us some feedback and some understanding of what your journey's been. Sure. I think think back to when you were choosing your course in February. What were the key things that you were looking for when you were trying to find a provider and how you wanted to study? And then how did kind of the college fit into that?
Yeah, of course. So I think one thing I would say is that, it can be quite overwhelming, especially with the SQE being a new qualification, and it's a completely different structure to what we've known as the LPC previously. So I remember when I was looking, I felt a little bit lost at times. I was looking at all these different providers, Meanwhile, trying to get to grips with a new qualification, it is difficult. But one thing I noticed is the support from the get-go with the College of Legal Practice. So I reached out, and I think I got a response within the hour from the student support team, and they were so helpful with all of my various different questions. I had many at the time, and I got a really good feeling at the beginning, even from just the initial questions I had. I had initial calls with the student experience team, and it just was really refreshing. And that was kind of the differentiator for me. I got a really good impression at the beginning from the support. And then as I've progressed through the course, I think that support has continued. So Kathryn is my lovely personal tutor and was for the SQE1 prep course. And, you know, it was just really refreshing. I said to Kathryn, actually, that, you know, I've done several years of education, and, you know, I've actually felt more supported at the College of Legal Practice than I have previously in other parts of my educational background. So no, it's been really refreshing. And I think one thing for me is the flexibility of the course, as I've mentioned, because, you know, working full-time and studying is intense, you know, and it's not something that you should go into lightheartedly. However, I found that because this is a virtual provider, it's designed to be a virtual provider from day one. So it really does work as a virtual provider. And, you know, I can do my preparation for, well, now the dispute resolution module that I'm doing, but also the SQE1 prep course when I was doing it, anytime, whenever suits me. And I had that constant contact with anyone that I needed, whether that be students or staff. So I think the two things, the support and the flexibility, they were the two main things I was looking for. And they are the two things that the College of, two of many things, but two of the main things that the College of Legal Practice can offer.
Real. I think you kind of touched on really my next question there, which is brilliant, was around kind of you're a paralegal, you work full time. How do you find managing the town halls, the surgeries, your one-to-one supervisor sessions around your job? How do you find, and then not even including the activities you need to complete, etc. How do you find managing all of that?
Sure. No, and it's intense. And I would say anyone has to go into it knowing that they have to commit a certain amount of hours to their studying. It is very full on. Having said that, I think you do have to, and Kathryn, as my personal tutor, is a very different way of studying. And as Kathryn will say to me, I'm sure, that we worked, I think, on the first few weeks, actually trying to really get a study plan going and how I was going to fit studying into kind of what is already my very busy life. So, it's a very different way of learning. You do kind of have to be really self-disciplined in putting those hours in. Having said that, it is definitely possible. So how I worked kind of around my study plan is evenings and weekends largely. It is important to give yourself a break, so you do have to factor that in as well. Obviously, as kind of the SQE1 was approaching, those hours do slowly but surely increase when you're trying to integrate revision in there. But Kathryn and I, we caught up many times on a weekly basis at times, and those sessions are scheduled around you. I always found that, lunch times when I was working worked really best for me. The town halls are always scheduled around a lunch hour, so I could just pop off for half an hour and do a quick session. And you can do that, in my experience, from the comfort of your own desk, because it is a virtual provider. So, it is possible. It's intense, but it's definitely possible. And I found that because the College of Legal Practice is a virtual provider, that was a lot easier than, say, me running to a different building somewhere and being there, in person. So but it is definitely possible. It is intense, but more than possible.
Real. I think to finish with a last question, just to kind of round off your journey. Obviously, like you said, in the summer you sat SQE1, and we've had lots of feedback from students about how that was, and a very different experience. How did you personally find, just applying to do the exam, going to do the exam? How did you find applying yourself to it was?
Sure, definitely. I keep using the word intense. It is a long exam, and it is an intense, well, not exam, exams plural. It is very intense because obviously you're covering several areas of law over 2 papers on 2 days, so 4 papers in total, to cover FLK1 and FLK2. So it is very intense. And I think the thing for me, and one thing that was really new, is the structure of the actual question. So it is it's a multiple choice, but it's best answer. So every possible answer to the question can be right, and that you're almost trying to pick the best answer in that possible scenario. That for me was, I guess, the trickiest thing. It's not just a case of learning content and regurgitating it in an exam, it's actually applying it. And I think that's one thing I felt very prepared for in terms of course preparation for that exam. When I went in, I felt there was, multiple choice questions that were definitely reflective of what I, in the thousands that I prepared for in terms of questions, that were reflective in the actual exam, which was super helpful, and it really just give you a confidence boost. But in terms of the practicalities of sitting the exam, you book on the SRA website, so separate to the College of Legal Practice and separate to, I guess, every provider out there. And yeah, it was quite a straightforward process in terms of booking. And, I felt prepared. I think one thing that was really helpful in terms of the College of Legal Practice is Kathryn did a recorded session on how to what to expect on the day, even little things like what you can bring into the exam, ID checks, and it really does help you, because it's, you do go into it and it's a very intense days. So, no, I felt very prepared. It's very intense, but, I think I was prepared in the best possible way I can be.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your insight, Ben, because it is so good to hear from a student, somebody who's living that experience right now. So it really does help prospective students and people who are actually just might not even be considering us, but considering the SQE. It really helps them, I guess, give them a guide of what they need to do. So thank you so much for that. I think if anybody does have questions, please chuck them in the chat and we can get them to Ben at the end. And we'll always have time for questions at the end. So if you do have any, please just throw them straight into the chat and we'll come back to them later.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ben.
You.
So we'll scoot along nicely now. I'm going to kind of cover some bits of info that we have around what we do and what we try to do for our students. And I think this really covers basically what Ben has just gone over. Ben's just given everybody a really great understanding about the level of support, the layers of support, and how personal that support can be. And at the college, we say we have an SQE Ready pledge. We aim to give as the best opportunity to every single student to pass. And for us at the college, it's not about having what our pass rate says. It's about making sure that every individual who studies with us has the best opportunity to succeed in the SQE as best as they can. So we'll be there for every step of the way, and through that unmatched one-to-one time that Ben has just really well described and what he's had access to. At the end of your SQE prep course, you'll have what we call an SQE Ready review, where here you'll basically be advised by one of our tutors on the likelihood of you passing. We don't wish to put people forward for the exam if we don't think they're ready. We want to give them more time, another opportunity to prepare for it. Like we said, to give you the best possible chance to pass that exam. There's a number of things to think about when trying to pass the SQE assessment, and I'll touch on those in a minute with some considerations. But for us, it's really important that every student feels more than prepared and ready to sit that exam, if that's through the number of personal tutor sessions they've had, through to, as Ben said, maybe just a recorded session on what to expect on the day, because sometimes it might not be the knowledge that's difficult, but it might be the process of getting there, what you need to do whilst you get ready to sit the exam. So there's lots that we put in place just to make sure that we give you the best opportunity to pass the SQE assessments when you get to them. Looking at what Ben has said and what Kathryn has touched on as well, is we always have a look at what our students say and what our students want. So we always like to get feedback from our students. We always receive really positive feedback, which for us is really great in terms of developing our programs to make sure they continuously evolve. So we always find what works really well. And as Ben said, in those town hall sessions, sometimes there's opportunity for feedback. And then that's opportunity for our program leaders like Kathryn to provide that feedback and what they've done based on that feedback. So 80% of our students were satisfied or very satisfied with the course. 70% felt they felt the learning portal was easy. or very easy to use, which is our Canvas learning portal, where you find all your activities and your recorded sessions, and you can contact your tutors. 85% of students rated their one-to-one supervisors good or very good, and 80% would highly recommend the college to others. So we're really proud about the experience individuals have with us when they learn with us for their preparation courses. We always like to finish with, before kind of outlining our kind of what courses we have coming up, there's just considerations. So these are things that you might want to think about as you decide what course you want to do, how you want to do it, where you want to do it. There's so many things that can really factor into making it a successful preparation course. So the first thing we always ask is, when do you want to sit the SQE exam? You know, how quickly would you like to qualify? You should really be timing your prep course to do the SQE exam immediately after you study. So you don't want to sit an exam and have a long period of time between finishing a prep course and the exam. So you always want to time that as best you can. And you'll see in a second with our preparation course dates, we make sure we line up all of our courses in line for an SQE exam date. When did you last study? And we mean this very generically. When was the last time you studied a bachelor's degree, maybe even a master's program? When was the last time that you applied yourself into a study mode mindset? So that's really important to make sure you can take on the heavy and, as Ben said, intense amounts of information. And what's your current level of knowledge of law in England and Wales? There's 13 practice areas in SQE1. So there's a lot of law that you need to be able to understand of the legal system in England and Wales. So you really need to try and make sure that if you feel that your knowledge is already well aligned to those practice areas, maybe you can jump straight into an SQE preparation course or a master's program. Maybe if not, and you want to be able to brush up that knowledge, we also offer a GFL, a graduate and foundation law program. That's there to support those who maybe have not studied law for a long time or have been out of the profession for a long time, or those who are transferring from a non-law degree. That's there to basically support individuals to make sure that they give themselves the best opportunity to start their transition into law. How much time do you have to learn and revise alongside work and other commitments? There's lots to do. There's lots of information to take on board, and you want to make sure that you can get best amount of time. So if you're working full-time, part-time, do you want to be studying part-time, full-time? What activities do you do outside of studying and working? Is your employer able to support you in your studies as well? And that could be through study days, that could be flexibility of when your town halls or surgeries might be. This might even be down to the finances. What comes after what's next? Sorry, after SQE1. So what you need to think about here is what do you want to do after? Do you want to go straight into SQE2? Do you want to be able to actually get some qualifying work experience and take a little bit of time out from studying? Make sure that you can build up some QWE before you head to SQE2. There's a few things to think about when it comes to what you want to do after you've passed SQE1. And lastly, do you need funding support? So in relation to our LLM, it holds degree awarding powers, so it's a full accredited postgraduate degree. Therefore, you're able to apply for Student Finance England funding for a master's loan, which is fantastic. The cost of our LLM, which is $6,900, coupled with the two costs of the SQE exams, is covered by that loan. For some providers, that might not be the case, but for us, you're able to cover the two exam fees as well as our LLM fee under one instalment payment from Student Finance England. So it gives you a really good opportunity to be able to cover the cost if you have concerns around that. But you may also wish to think, will your employer support you? So will your employer be able to pay for you or contribute towards your professional development by doing the program? So those are a few key considerations that it's just best to think about. As we go through what we've got here, and I won't spend too much time on these as there's lots of kind of words and numbers on the screen. And these are the courses that we have coming up. So on the program, the page in front of you is our SLK, so our SQE1 preparation and LLM start dates. The key thing to think about, like I said, is on the far right-hand column, you'll see it says SQE1 assessment. This is when we try to make sure you are set up best to sit the SQE exam. So if you're thinking of a full-time 13-week program, which could be 35, 40 hours of study a week, we would aim to have you sit that exam at the earliest possible opportunity. So we line it up. And then you'll see we have part-time over 20 and 40-week programs, and they extend out a little bit longer. But again, the key date's on the right-hand side, so we try to line it up. Secondly, we have our SLS, which is our SQE2 preparation courses. Starting next year, we have our new 40-week program for SLS. So if somebody wants to sit it over a longer period of time, we have that starting next September. What's also worth noting, we do have a 27-week program starting in a couple of weeks, a few days actually. Applications are still open, and we aim to have individuals to sit the SQE2 paper and exam by April 23. So those are a few key things to think about when looking at our course start dates. How to apply, really easy, head to our website. So if you're looking at a direct preparation course with us, that goes through our website. If you're looking at the LLM, that goes through LawCab online, and then that comes directly to us from the Central Admissions Board. Criteria for us up until the end of this year is to hold a UK undergraduate degree or equivalent. And if English isn't your first language, you need to have IELTS or equivalent at 6.5 overall. It's worth noting with the undergraduate degree and IELTS, you can have equivalency. So if you have sat, if English isn't your first language, but you've sat and completed an undergraduate degree in the UK, you should have had to apply with an IELTS English language exam to sit that. Therefore, if you have done that, we wouldn't require the IELTS as you've already done one in the UK. For courses starting in 2023, one difference is you need to hold the minimum of a 2.2 or equivalent undergraduate degree. Key things for you to follow up with us, or we can follow up with you. We're really keen to speak to you. Hopefully from this you've got lots of questions about the things that we do and what we have on offer. We offer Calendly appointments, so if you want to sit and have a 20-minute Zoom call with myself or Layla, our student recruitment officer, we're here ready to sit and chat you through what options and what we might have for you. But also if you're just unsure and need a sounding board to discuss academic opportunities in general, we're here to talk you through those as well. You can call our central phone line, or you can drop us an email. But quite key as well, I mentioned at the start, we have a LinkedIn SQE study group. These slides will go out in PDF format after, so I'll make sure that you get this so you can find all the information on there. But we have a study and information group for those for the SQE. So if you want to find out more about the SQE, or you want to hear from current students, or how people are studying, or top tips for getting QWE, etc., join that group. And it's also a great way of linking up with other people. Over the next couple of months, we've got a few key dates for people to keep in mind. QWE, we're doing a specific webinar on QWE with AccuTrainee, which will be really great. And then we also have on the Thursday, 3rd of November, an open evening. So if you want to come find out more about the college, who works here, what courses we have on offer, please come join us for that as well. And both of those events are on Hopin. But we'd really be keen for you to come speak to us post this event. Please come submit a Calendly request, and we're more than happy to sit and chat through what options might be ready for you. But that is the end of our presentation. I hope that we might have had some questions come through. If not, I have some questions lined up for both Kathryn and Ben, just so we know that we have can get as much knowledge out of them as possible. And I think a question that I'd like to ask to Kathryn straight away is, we've only kind of touched on QWE. Kathryn, how does QWE differ from the LPC? As the LPC is what everybody has always known, and the SQE is very new. What is QWE, and how is it different to what it was structured under the LPC?
Thanks, Matt. It's the flagship part of the SQE route to qualification, really. In order to previously qualify under the LPC route, you had to complete your LPC and then get a training contract with an accredited provider of a training contract. And that was a bottleneck for many people to actually qualifying at all, because there are more people coming through the LPC route than there are training contracts available. And so as part of the mission to increase diversity and access to the profession, the QWE route or the SQE route with qualifying work experience within it means that you can undertake work experience within up to 4 organisations. The organisation does not have to be registered or accredited or authorised in any way by the SRA. They simply have to be a provider of legal services. So the organisation might be a firm of solicitors, it could be a limited liability partnership, it could be in-house, it could be local government, it can even be overseas. The key aspect of it is that it must be a provider of legal services, and the work that you do while placed with that organisation must be involved in the provision of legal services. So if you're involved in doing matter analysis or sitting in on client interviews or drafting memos or correspondence, that will all count as work that is providing legal services. If you're standing at the photocopier all day, it won't cut it. It can also be paid or unpaid. It can, so you don't have to secure a paid position. That means as well that if you're in a university setting where you have the access to doing work in a legal clinic, the legal clinic work can count as part of your qualifying work experience. And what you need to do is keep a record of the work experience that you're doing, and then you can pick from that the work that you want to actually be signed off as qualifying work experience. The other aspect is, the other key difference is that you need to find somebody who's willing to sign off your work experience, but the signing off that you're exposed to the competencies, not to your expertise or otherwise in the areas of law in which you've had that qualifying work experience. So it really is very, very different, and it really does open up the possibility of qualifying to people who had been blocked from qualifying. We had a number of students. Ben's mentioned that he's got his qualifying work experience before he even started his SQE prep, and we have a number of students who have actually done our SQE prep courses, both SQE1 and SQE2, who've been admitted as solicitors already, even though the first SQE2 exam only took place in April and the results were only announced in the back end of August. So it really is a very different aspect to qualifying than previously existed.
Well, thank you, Kathryn. I think obviously touching on Ben there, and he's already doing his, which is fantastic, and gives him a nice, easier process through the SQE. On the SQE exam, we did have a question that was submitted prior, and this is probably a really good question for you, Ben, as somebody who sat it relatively recently.
Sure.
What top tips would you say are best to prepare for sitting the SQE1 exam? It's a very different exam to what people have done before. What would you say from your personal experience are the top tips needed?
So definitely for me, it's the way you learn to prepare for the SQE exam that I had to really focus on, because I was so used to doing a law degree, or other people on this call may have another degree, where you do copious amounts of reading and you're trying to absorb every bit of information. You need to go above and beyond the materials to, do an assignment. It is a very different way of learning. You are simply learning a legal principle and applying it to a scenario. And that's one thing that took me quite a while to get my head around, because I was so used to, going above and beyond and going on Westlaw and trying to find extra articles. And that isn't the case at all. And it's not necessary. It's very practical. You're learning to understand a legal principle and applying it to a scenario. So that's one thing I would go into the course, but also the exam, remembering, because, you have a lot to learn and absorb, some of which I guess if you've done a law degree or a conversion, you will have covered already. But then there's also areas of law that were completely new to me, for example, so business law and practice, property law and practice. So there's a lot of content to cover in what is a very short amount of time. So it's focusing your learning for the exam and being laser focused on that exam rather than kind of going above and beyond, if that makes sense. Of course, if you don't understand something, a quick Google here and there is, or asking your supervisor in that area of law is important, and you should do that. You should understand all of the content, but it's about understanding and moving on quite quickly. So that's one thing I would suggest to anyone going into this.
Brilliant. And I think I've seen the time. We've got a couple of minutes left, and I'd like to pose the same or similar question to you, Kathryn. If you, as maybe from the other side of it, as one of the tutors on the programme, what would you say, you know, the top tips or skills an individual needs to develop to be able to sit the SQE assessments?
Thanks, Matt. One, I'm going to break this down to 2 parts. Number 1 is commitment. Get through the study at the pace at which it's set out for you, because we've put a lot of thought into how the course is designed. And the second point would be practice, practice, practice. It really doesn't matter how many times you read the books. You've got to be able to attempt 90 MCQs in 2.5 hours in the SQE exam. And the only way you're going to be ready for that is practice. So take up the opportunities to do those practice MCQs in formative assessments throughout your time of study in an SQE prep course.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that answer, and thank you, Ben, for your answers and your contribution. We're coming to the end of the webinar now. I guess as a closing message, firstly, thank you. We really hope that you've enjoyed and taken a lot out of today's webinar, and hope you've been able to understand preparing to sit the SQE. As I'd said, if you want to find out more information, or you'd like to speak to us directly about what we offer and how we can support you through that journey, set up a Calendly appointment with us. What we'll look to do is contact you in a couple of weeks. We'll send an email to you tomorrow, but over the next couple of weeks, we'll drop an email to you and just see how you are and see if there's anything that we can do to help support. But as a last thing, thank you to our panelists and our speakers today, and we really hope you've enjoyed the webinar.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.